Welcome, listeners of 6th grade primary school. Today we will start our lesson about your lesson 2 of unit 2, which we have studied. And I remind you, بفكركم, we have studied up to now 2 lessons, which are unit 1, which contain only 1 lesson, the lesson of mass and weight. We have differentiated between everything between mass and weight. Also, we have studied lesson 1 of unit 2, which is measuring temperature, which is the heat conduction. We have studied the difference between bad conductors of heat and good conductor of heat. Today we will study second lesson of unit 2, which is measuring temperature. I remind you, بفكركم تاني, we have studied lesson 1 of unit 2, which is heat conduction أو توصيل الحرارة. And today, that's time, we will study lesson 2 of unit 2, which is measuring temperature. Before we will study this lesson, I ask you a very simple question. Can we measure temperature by touching? Again, can we measure temperature by touching? Surely not. Why? Because sense of touch is not accurate. That's a very important give-reason question. Again, can we measure temperature by touching? Surely not. Why? Because we know that sense of touch is not accurate. Sense of touch is not accurate. Again, so the answer will be no, because sense of touch is not accurate. So, what is the device which we use to measure temperature accurately? هو الجهاز اللي هيقيس الحرارة بدقة. Again, the device that measure temperature accurately is the thermometer. Again, the thermometer is the device that is measure temperature accurately. Again, we have a very accurate device, جهاز مهم جدا ودقيق جدا في نفس الوقت, that measure temperature, which is the thermometer. So what's about thermometer? We can say thermometer, a very easy definition, تعريف سهل جدا للthermometer, is a device that is used to measure the temperature. Again, thermometer is a device that is used to measure the temperature accurately. Again, thermometer أو thermometer هو الجهاز اللي بيقيس الحرارة بدقة. So we can say thermometer is a device that is used to measure temperature accurately. So now, we have the main idea of thermometer. How does the thermometer work? ازاي بيشتغل التhermometer? What is the main idea of thermometer? We know that the thermometer has a very simple idea that liquids inside thermometer expand by heating and contract by cooling. Again, liquid expand by heating and contract by cooling. So, before I explain the main idea of the thermometer, let me draw this idea. قبل ما اشرح يعني ايه فكرة thermometer, please let me draw how the thermometer work. Imagine that we have a basin of water like that. Imagine that we draw with ourselves, okay? And they have flask like this, okay? With a stopper يعني حاجة بتقفلها خالص. And they have a capillary tube. Capillary tube كلمة مهمة جدا أول مرة نسمعها. That means أنبوبة شعرية. Capillary tube, very narrow tube. عشان كده سميناها أنبوبة شعرية لأنها ضيقة جدا is the size أو like the size of the hair, يعني تقريبا بحجم الشعر يعني. Okay, capillary tube, and here I have colored water, any color. Okay, water and some color of ink, some color of any colored matter at your home. And I order some people to pour hot water on this flask. Pour very hot water. Okay, pour very hot water. What happened to water inside the capillary tube? I will see it will raise, هترتفع. Why? It will raise to a great extent, and sometimes it will raise to the top of the capillary tube. يبقى لما بحط hot water, ايه اللي حصل للwater اللي inside the capillary tube? It expands, حصل لها expand by heating. So we can say water inside the capillary tube expands by heating. Expand يعني تتمدد. So if I pour another very cold water in another tube or in another experiment, يعني تجربة تانية, for example, another experiment, I will draw another basin of water like that, and the same flask, okay, and the same capillary tube, but here I put cubes of ice, okay. What happened to water inside the capillary tube? It will contract. So I can write here, it will contract. So we can summarize, ممكن نلخص كل اللي عملناه. By that we can say liquids such as water or any liquid expands by heating, and what by cooling and contract. Liquids expands by heating and contract by cooling. Again, liquids expand by heating and contract by cooling. So we can summarize what we have done by this experiment in that main idea of thermometer is that liquids inside the thermometer expand by heating and contract by cooling. Again, this is a very important main idea of thermometer. هو ده معنى الترمومتر أو فكرة عمل الترمومتر. The main idea of thermometer is that liquids inside the thermometer expand by heating and contract by cooling. So when I put the thermometer inside the mouth of the patient, what happens to the mercury inside the patient or inside the thermometer? It will expand. So when I get out the mercury or when I get out the thermometer from the mouth of the patient, it will contract. So we can say again and again, it's very important and easy at the same time main idea of thermometer. Again, liquids expand by heating and contract by cooling. Again, liquids inside the thermometer expands by heating and contract by cooling. So we can say the main idea of the thermometer, as we will see now on the monitor, liquids expand by heating and contract by cooling. Liquids expand by heating and contract by cooling. Okay, so again, liquids expand by heating and contract by cooling. I think it's a very important idea and easy at the same time. It's very important idea and easy at the same time. So now let's have types of thermometer we will study this year. That's a very important point in our lesson today. We will study two types of thermometer this year. We will study number one, medical thermometer أو الترمومتر الطبي, medical thermometer أو الترمومتر الطبي, and Celsius thermometer أو الترمومتر المئوي as we call it now. Again, we have many thermometers, but this year in 6th grade school, we will study only two thermometers which are medical and Celsius thermometer. Medical and Celsius thermometer, okay? So now, let's start with the medical thermometer. I have here an image for this thermometer, and I am sure all of you know, and all of you may use this thermometer one day. This thermometer is called what? It's called medical thermometer or called clinical thermometer. So we have two names for this thermometer, medical or clinical. Again, medical or clinical. So now let's have a definition for the medical thermometer. What's meant by medical thermometer? We can make an easy definition for the thermometer by knowing its function. يبقى أنا أحب أعمل definition, as I said before and before, I can make my own definition from my own information about this thing I have studied. يبقى ممكن أعمل definition من رأيي أنا الشخصي which I have studied. I have studied that medical thermometer is a thermometer that is used for measuring temperature of the human being. Or again, medical thermometer is a thermometer that is used for measuring the temperature of the human body or for the man or for the people. I can make any definition or easy definition for medical thermometer. Again, I like all the creative pupils. بحب أوي الطالب المبدع اللي بيعمل definition من دماغه هو, not from the book, not from keeping by heart all the definition. Again, we can make a definition for the medical thermometer by that. Medical thermometer is the thermometer that is used to measure the temperature of the human being. Again, medical thermometer is the thermometer that is used for measuring or to measure the temperature of the human being. Okay, so now another picture for the medical thermometer. You see that it begins from 35 Celsius to 42 Celsius. Okay, again it begins from 35 and ends at 42 Celsius. And now we will study all things about medical thermometer. Okay, so medical thermometer structure تركيبه ايه؟ Number one, it contains or it consists of transparent thick glass tube. Number two, capillary tube closed from one its ends. Number three, mercury pulp. Number four, constriction. Again, medical thermometer contains main four things which are transparent thick glass tube, capillary tube closed from one of its ends, mercury pulp, and at last the most important thing I think that found in the medical thermometer is the constriction. So now let me draw an image for the medical thermometer. Okay, نرسم مع بعض what's meant by or what is the structure of the medical thermometer again. Again, it contains number one, transparent thick glass tube like that. Okay, transparent thick glass tube. means we can say it's glass tube. Okay, briefly يعني باختصار glass tube. It must be transparent. تكون شفافة to see the mercury. And also it contains mercury pulp at the bottom. Mercury pulp اللي بنسميه مستودع أو خزان الزئبق. It means an area for keeping the mercury inside the thermometer. Also I have a very important part which is called the capillary tube. As I said before, capillary tube أو سميناها أنبوبة شعرية. Capillary tube. Okay, capillary tube. And the most important thing in this thermometer is that this area is called what? هنا احنا شايفين في كده يعني حاجة بتلف أو حوادية شوية بنسميها constriction أو اختناق. اختناق. What is the function of this constriction? That this constriction is to keep the mercury not coming back after measuring temperature. Again, the constriction prevent mercury coming back from measuring temperature or after measuring temperature. So what happened to mercury here? If there is high temperature, mercury is put here inside the mercury pulp, it will expand. As I said, it will expand more and more. So as I said, mercury expand by heating, and all liquids expand by heating and contract by cooling. So we can say mercury inside the thermometer expands by heating and contracts by cooling. So again, the medical thermometer consists of 4 main parts, which are number 1, glass tube. Number 2, capillary tube, closed from one of its ends, and this end, and mercury pulp at the bottom. Mercury pulp أو خزان الزئبق. We know that mercury is a material used in the thermometer or is a liquid, and also we know that mercury is the name of the first planet. Okay, they are the same meaning. يعني عندنا mercury ليه اسمين، هو اسم أول كوكب وفي نفس الوقت اسم liquid used in the thermometer أو السائل المستخدم في الثرمومتر. Again, also we have a constriction. Constriction معناها اختناق أو يعني في كده narrowing in the tube، تضييق في الأنبوبة شوية to prevent mercury back. عشان لما الميركوري يطلع don't come back again quickly to measure the temperature accurately. So the constriction is a very important part in the medical thermometer. Why? Because it prevents mercury back. Again, constriction is a very important part because it prevents mercury back after measuring temperature. So now let's move again to the structure in more details of the thermometer. We know that the thermometer contains 4 main parts, which are transparent thick glass tube, mercury pulp, capillary tube, and at last the constriction, which is found above the mercury pulp. And this constriction has a very important role or a very important function. دي وظيفة مهمة جدا that prevent mercury back from going again after measuring temperature. So that imagine that I have a thermometer now and I measure the temperature of a patient. What happens when I get out the thermometer from the patient mouth? The mercury will go back. So if there is a constriction, لو في اختناق فعلا, the constriction will prevent mercury back. So the constriction is a very important part or a very important function in the medical thermometer to prevent the mercury from going back again after measuring temperature. So now we have 4 main parts of the medical thermometer, which are glass tube, capillary tube, mercury pulp, and at last I have a constriction that prevent the mercury from going back. Also, we have a very important nota bene, ملاحظة مهمة جدا. Medical thermometer has a constriction, as I said, to prevent mercury back quickly, to read that measurement easily. Again, medical thermometer has a constriction to prevent mercury back quickly, to read the measurement easily. Okay, so now the scale of the medical thermometer starts from 35 to 42 Celsius. Why? Why those 2 degrees are found in the medical thermometer, not more than them or not less than them? The medical thermometer starts from 35 and ends at 42. We know that the temperature of the human body is what? I can hear you now. It's very important to know that the normal temperature of the human body is 37. So it may come down, yeah, it may come down to be 36 or 35. When it comes to 35, it means blood clot or blood coagulation, which means اللي بنسميها تجلط في الدم, which means death, اللي معناها الوفاة. So the temperature of the human body is 37. So the medical thermometer starts from 2 degrees less than the medical thermometer, so it will start from 35. So again, medical thermometer starts from 35 and ends at what? Ends at 42. Why? We know that the temperature of the human body is 37. Let us write with them 37. It may come down to 36 or 35. 35 means what? Means death. So what happened when it raised? It may be 38, 39, 40, 41. 42 means also death. Why? Because it means explosion in the arteries of the brain. حصل يعني انفجار في شرايين المخ or internal bleeding أو نزيف داخلي. So again, the medical thermometer doesn't need more than 42 Celsius or doesn't need less than 35 Celsius. So again, the medical thermometer started from what to what? From 35 Celsius to 42 Celsius. Okay? So again, the medical thermometer starts from 35 Celsius and ends at 42 Celsius. It's a very important note or a very important information about the medical thermometer. And I think all of you see the medical thermometer one day and see the scale يعني تدريج الميديكال thermometer, and also we see the scale of the medical thermometer from time to time when we use the medical thermometer at home or at clinics في العيادات or at hostels. So again, the medical thermometer starts from what to what? It starts from 35 Celsius to 42 Celsius. Another information about medical thermometer. Each degree in the medical thermometer is divided into 10 degrees or is divided into 10 parts equals each part of them equal 1/10 degree. So why is this important? Yes, very important. Why? To make the medical thermometer more accurately. يبقى هنا قسمنا كل degree in the medical thermometer to 10 parts. Each part of them is 1/10 degree or is 0.1 degree. So to make the medical thermometer is very accurate عشان يكون دقيق جدا, we have divided the medical thermometer or each part in the medical thermometer to 10 parts and each part is 1/10 degree. So it's very accurate than the other thermometer. Another information about the medical thermometer. We must dry it by tissue paper after using or before using because we use alcohol. Alcohol, you know, alcohol or ethyl alcohol or any perfume to sterilize the thermometer, okay? So now, how to use the medical thermometer? I think this information is very important, not for the exam, not for science, but is very important for your life, for your health. هنا هنقول موضوع مهم جدا, مش بس مهم عشان الامتحان او عشان الدرجات او عشان الساينس او لكن هو مهم جدا عشان حياتنا الشخصية. How to use medical thermometer. ازاي استخدم الترمومتر الطبي او medical thermometer. Number 1, sterilized by ethyl alcohol. لازم أطهر الترمومتر بالكحول الإيثيلي. So if you don't have ethyl alcohol, you can use any perfume because any perfume contain ethyl alcohol. We know alcohol أو الكحول. Alcohol is found in any perfume at your home. Or you can use any sterilizer. ممكن نستخدم أي مطهر found at your home. It's very important to sterilize the thermometer by ethyl alcohol. The first step to use the medical thermometer is that sterilized by ethyl alcohol, أطهره بالكحول الإيثيلي. Number 2, shake the thermometer until mercury goes back to the bulb. هذا الترمومتر أو هرجه هزات شديدة شوية عشان أرجع الميركوري تاني للميركوري bulb. So why I shake the thermometer? Because there is a constriction inside the thermometer. So I must shake the thermometer to force mercury back عشان أدفع الميركوري للخلف مرة تانية. So if there is a constriction, there is not a constriction, the mercury can go back easily. But because there is a constriction, mercury cannot go back easily. So I must shake the thermometer. يبقى الخطوة الثانية, we must shake the thermometer until mercury goes back to the bulb. Third step, الخطوة الثالثة, put it under the tongue for a minute. Put it under the tongue. حطه أو أضع الثرمومتر ده تحت اللسان. Why under the tongue? Why I cannot put it above the tongue, for example? I cannot put it above the tongue because if it is above the tongue, I measure the temperature of the air inside the mouth. يبقى لازم نحط الثرمومتر under the tongue to measure the temperature of the body by measuring the temperature of the saliva inside your body or the liquid inside your body. So again, I must put the thermometer under the tongue, not above the tongue, for a minute or less or more to measure the temperature. Again, the third step الخطوة الثالثة put it under the tongue for a minute. Fourth step الخطوة الرابعة get it out and read it. Get it out and read it to know the temperature of the patient or of the man, of the pupil. I can measure the temperature for him. Again, get it out and read it. Number 5, sterilize it again by ethyl alcohol. هنطهره مرة تانية بالكحول. Again, number 5 is like the step number 1. Sterilize again it by ethyl alcohol. هنطهره مرة أخرى بالكحول الإيثيلي. And if you don't have ethyl alcohol, surely you have perfume at your home. Use the cheapest perfume. هستخدم هنا أرخص برفان موجود في البيت. Why? Because when the perfume is cheaper, it will contain more alcohol. لما يكون البرفان مش غالي بيكون فيه الكحول أكتر, so it will sterilize the thermometer accurately. يبقى دايما أختار البرفيوم الشيبر الأرخص لأنه بيكون فيه more and more alcohol to sterilize the thermometer. So I must use the ethyl alcohol or the perfume at your home to sterilize the thermometer before using first step and after using the fifth step. So ethyl alcohol is a very important material or is a very important liquid, must be available at home. لازم يكون موجود عندنا في البيت to use it after or before using the thermometer. Then the second step or the sixth step الخطوة الأخيرة put it in its box. هنرجع الترمومتر تاني للحافظة بتاعته أو الصندوق الخاص بيه to don't be break or not to be break because it may break and it's made of glass. We know that it's made of glass, so it may break or it will be exposed to break. So we have 6 steps for measuring temperature or for using the medical thermometer. First step, as I said, sterilize by ethyl alcohol and dry by tissue paper. Second step, let us see them now. Second step, okay, shake the thermometer until mercury goes back, and I must make sure that the mercury goes back to the pulp. يعني هنهز الترمومتر وهنبص كل مرة على الميركوري عشان نتأكد كويس قوي to make sure the mercury goes back to the pulp. And I said the pulp, البulp معناها هنا مستودع أو خزان الزئبق, المكان اللي بيكون at the bottom of the thermometer that contains mercury. So the third step, الخطوة الثالثة, put it under the tongue for a minute. Fourth step, الخطوة الرابعة, get it out and read it. Get it out and read it. Fifth step, sterilize it again in ethyl alcohol. Sterilize again in ethyl alcohol. Sixth step, put it in its box to measure or to use it again and again to keep it. And we must keep it away from children because we know that mercury is a very toxic material. يعني لازم يكون عندنا حرص شديد جدا باستخدام الترمومتر. We mustn't keep it near the children because we know that mercury inside the thermometer is a toxic or is a poisonous material. That's a very important note in our lesson today. We must note that thermometer mustn't be kept near the children, or we must keep it away from the reach of the children because we know that mercury is a toxic material or is a poisonous material, and also the glass which is used in making the thermometer can break and make wounds or can cause wounds for the children. So now let's move to a new point in our lesson today about the thermometer. And also I remind you we have 2 types of thermometer, which is medical thermometer and Celsius thermometer. عندنا نوعين من الترمومترات, medical thermometer أو الترمومتر الطبي and Celsius thermometer أو الترمومتر المئوي. We have now or up till now, sorry, we have studied some things or more things about medical thermometer. So now, نقطة بينا ملاحظة مهمة جدا. Don't seize the thermometer firmly. يعني لما نحط الترمومتر inside the mouse patient, we must advise him. لازم ننصحه. Don't seize the thermometer firmly with your teeth. ما ينفعش أضغط عليه بشدة أو بعنف عن طريق الأسنان. Why? In order not to break, because mercury is a poisonous or is a toxic material because it contains glass, it contains mercury, and the glass may cause wounds, ممكن يسبب جروح, and mercury is poisonous or toxic that may cause death. Now mercury, for example, is swallowed, اتبلع, it may cause death because mercury is poisonous or toxic. Okay, again we must take care when using the thermometer because mercury is a toxic material. As we know, mercury is a toxic material, and also glass may cause wounds, ممكن يسبب جروح for the patient or for the children especially. Okay, so now Let's have another important note. ملحوظة مهمة جدا to be used when using the thermometer. The thermometer must be vertical and the direction of the thermometer of the side, must be horizontal during reading the temperature. Imagine that I have the thermometer now at my hand. شوف مع بعض. Imagine that I have the thermometer. I must look the thermometer like that vertically like that to know the temperature accurately. يعني ما ينفعش I can measure temperature like that or like that. I must see the thermometer with a perpendicular direction as we have studied in mathematics. Again, we must read the thermometer like that or like that. Don't keep it up or don't keep it down to read the measurement of the thermometer accurately. عشان أقراها بدقة أو بعناية أو بشكل صحيح, we must write the thermometer in a perpendicular direction to the thermometer. Okay? Again, I advise you or I remind you, mercury is a toxic material. Take care very much when using the medical thermometer. Thermometer may break and cause wounds, or mercury may cause death. For example, لا قدر الله يعني, because it's a toxic or poisonous material إن هو مادة سامة. Okay, so now another type of thermometer. We will have one information only about it. هو مش thermometer عندنا السنة دي, لكن ناخد عنه معلومة واحدة بس. The digital thermometer, thermometer الرقمي, displays the thermometer digitally. Okay, so now what are the second type of thermometer? It is the Celsius thermometer أو الترمومتر المئوي. We have known this thermometer by the great scientist Andres Celsius that make both of the thermometer and make the first thermometer in our life. Again, العالم الشهير جدا أندريز سيلسيوس هو اللي عمل الترمومترين أو هو اللي عمل أول ترمومتر في حياتنا. عشان كده هنسمي الترمومتر التاني باسمه هو شخصيا Celsius thermometer, the great scientist Andres Celsius. Okay, so what about Celsius thermometer? We use it for measuring temperature of liquid. So we can make a definition. Each definition by your creative mind. بعقولنا المبدعة ممكن نعمل definition مش هنحفظها لكن هنفهمها ونعمل definition with my own creative mind. Okay, so again the Celsius thermometer is the thermometer that is used to measure the temperature of liquids. Again, is the thermometer that is used for measuring the temperature of liquids, or also it can be used for measuring temperature of atmosphere or atmospheric air. Again, Celsius thermometer is the thermometer that is used for measuring the temperature of liquids. Okay, so it's an image for the Celsius thermometer. It's much bigger than the medical thermometer because it started from 0 Celsius and ended at 100 Celsius. Again, it started from 0 Celsius and ended at 100 Celsius. So the Celsius thermometer is much bigger or is much taller than the medical one because it started from 0 to 100 Celsius, not from 35 to 42 Celsius like the medical thermometer. Okay, another picture for the medical thermometer. Look here, it started from 0 Celsius or minus, it may be minus 0, minus 10, minus 20 like that, for example, and ended at 100 Celsius or more than 100. It may becomes or it may reach 200 at the same cases, or it may reach 300, for example. So it's a very tall or it's a very long thermometer or longer than the medical one. So again, up till now we have studied all things about medical thermometer, but now we are studying the Celsius thermometer. Celsius thermometer started from what to what? From 0 to 100 at least, or maybe more than this, less than 0 or more than 100, and it's used for measuring temperature of what? Measuring temperature of liquids and atmospheric air. Again, liquids and atmospheric air. Okay, so now structure of the Celsius thermometer. I think it will be similar to the medical one, but it may be different in one point. Okay, concentrate my students to know the difference between the structure of each one of them. نركز كويس قوي عشان نعرف الفرق في التركيب between the medical thermometer and the Celsius thermometer. Number 1, transparent thick glass tube. Number 2, capillary tube closed from one of its ends. And at last, mercury pulp أو مستودع الزئبق. So now we have three things only, or three components in the Celsius thermometer. So the main difference between the medical thermometer and Celsius thermometer is that the constriction. هنا أنا مش محتاج اختناق في السيليزيوس thermometer. Why? Because I don't need to measure the temperature of patient. I needed to measure temperature of liquids such as milk, such as juice, and so on, such as water, and so on. So again, the main difference between the medical thermometer and the Celsius thermometer in the structure is that in the Celsius thermometer there is no constriction, but in the medical thermometer there is a constriction. Why? Or give reason. We know that the medical thermometer contains a constriction to prevent mercury peak. يبقى أعرف نقطة مهمة جدا إن فرق أساسي بين ال two thermometers is that there is no constriction in the Celsius one. There is no constriction in the Celsius constriction. Okay? So now, نقطة فينا ملاحظة مهمة جدا. The scale of the Celsius thermometer starts from what to what? Starts from 0 Celsius to 100 Celsius. Again, 0 Celsius to 100 Celsius. The scale of the Celsius thermometer starts from what to what? We know that it may start from 0 Celsius to 100 Celsius, or may start from less than 0. For example, -10, -20, and ends at more than 100. For example, 200, 300, and so on. So which thermometer is longer? Which thermometer is bigger? Surely the Celsius one is bigger than the medical thermometer, because we know that the medical thermometer started from what to what? Medical started from 35 to 42. But what about the Celsius? It started from 0 Celsius to 100 Celsius. Okay? Another information about the Celsius thermometer. Celsius thermometer has no constriction. ما عندوش اختناق. Because you don't need it. I can measure the temperature accurately by the Celsius thermometer when it's put in the liquid. Imagine that I put the thermometer in the liquid and I can read it carefully without the constriction. So again, in the Celsius one, we don't need a constriction. We don't need a constriction for keeping the mercury. Okay? Which is the scientist, or who is the scientist that invented the two thermometers, or invented the main idea of thermometer? It's the great scientist Andres Celsius, created the Celsius thermometer in 1747. Again, the great scientist, as we know, as we see now on the monitor, the great scientist Andres Celsius created the thermometer in 1747. And Celsius also created the medical thermometer after that by knowing the structure of the medical thermometer. Okay? Celsius considered what? Considered the 0 Celsius as the melting point of ice is the first degree of his thermometer. هو اعتبر ان 0 Celsius, as we have studied in primary 4. What about 0 Celsius? We know that 0 Celsius is the melting point of ice. هو درجة انصهار الثلج is the first degree of the thermometer. And also he considered what? About the last degree. He considered 100 Celsius as the boiling point of water is the last point of his thermometer. So we must know that Celsius thermometer starts from what to what? From 0 Celsius to 100 Celsius. Why from 0? Because 0 is the melting point of ice. And why ends at 100 Celsius? Because 100 is the boiling point of water. Again, 0 is the melting point of ice, and 100 is the boiling point of water. Okay? So I considered 100 Celsius as the boiling point of water, as I said. And also, he divided the distance between 0 and 100 Celsius into 100 parts. Into 100 parts, each part is 1 degree. So now I have a very important question. Before I say this question, I can draw a very simple drawing for the medical thermometer and the Celsius thermometer, and I will ask you the question after I draw. Okay? Okay. I have two thermometers like that. That's medical one. Okay. And another longer thermometer like that. Okay. This is Celsius 1. Okay. Celsius 1. It started from what to what here in the medical thermometer? From 35 to 42. Okay. Here from 0 to 100. What difference else? الاختلاف التاني. Here in between each 2 degree like that, 35 to 36, there are 10 parts to make the temperature more accurate. And here between each degree and the other, 0 and 1, there is no parts. Okay. Here in the Celsius thermometer there aren't any part between each degree and the other, so it may be 1, 2, 3, 4. So the question now, which one of them is more accurate for measuring temperature of the human body? Surely you can answer this question very easily. It's the medical one. Why the medical one is more accurate? Because each degree is divided into 10 parts. هتخيل كده كل درجة مقسومة ل 10 أجزاء. يعني لما بقيس الحرارة بالميديكال thermometer I can measure the temperature not only by degrees but by degrees and the parts of degree. يعني بقيسها بالدرجة والجزء كمان من الدرجة. So I can say the temperature of a patient, for example, 37.2, 38.9, for example, 39.4, and so on. So the temperature of the Celsius thermometer is not accurate like the medical thermometer. So which one of them is more accurate? Surely the medical thermometer is more accurate than the Celsius thermometer in measuring temperature of the human body, because it's more accurate and each degree inside the medical thermometer is divided into 10 parts. So again, it's very easy information. It's very easy. Give reason question. Give reason question. We can use the medical thermometer for measuring temperature of the human body. So the answer would be that because it's more accurate, or because it starts from 35 Celsius and ends at 42 Celsius, and also each part of the degrees in the medical thermometer is divided into 10 parts, and it will make the thermometer more accurate than the other Celsius thermometer. يبقى الترمومتر الأدق هو medical thermometer, not the Celsius. But Celsius is very important in some cases for measuring temperature of liquids such as water, alcohol, oil, milk, and so on. So again, medical thermometer is a thermometer that is used for measuring temperature of the human body, and Celsius thermometer is a thermometer that is used for measuring the temperature of the liquids and also atmospheric air. So now, another information about the thermometer. There are some type of thermometers, for example, reaches 200 Celsius. So again, there are some type of thermometers such as Celsius thermometer that reaches 200 Celsius. Also, Celsius thermometer can measure the melting point of ice, 0 Celsius, and also the boiling point of water, that will be 100 Celsius. Again, Celsius thermometer can measure the melting point of ice, 0 Celsius, and also can measure the temperature of boiling point of water, that will be 100 Celsius. Why mercury is preferred? This is a very important give reason. سؤال مهم جدا في معظم الامتحانات. Why we use mercury in making thermometer? Why don't we use water, for example? Why don't we use milk? Because water and milk is not toxic. ليه بنستخدم mercury although it's a toxic material? Why is mercury is preferred in making thermometer? In this question, I have not only one reason but 4 reasons. I have 4 reasons for this question. Okay? Because number 1, it's a liquid metal that can be seen easily from the glass tube. هو سائل وفي نفس الوقت سائل معدني, liquid metal that can be seen easily, ممكن يشاف بسهولة from the glass tube. Again, why mercury is preferred in making the thermometer? Because it's a liquid metal that can be used, that can be seen easily from the glass tube. Another reason, it's a good conductor of heat because it's a metal. We know that from our previous study in primary 4 and the primary 5 that metals are good conductor of heat. So mercury is a liquid and it's also the metal. So it will be good conductor of heat. So I can use it in measuring the temperature of liquids or measuring the temperature of patient, for example, or in manufacturing of thermometer. So I have up till now 2 reasons for why we choose mercury for using the thermometer. Another reason, it's a regular expanding material. It's a regular expanding material means معناها انه بيتمدد بانتظام. When the temperature increase, the mercury expand. When temperature decrease, the mercury contract. So again, mercury is a regular liquid metal or a regular expanding material that expand by heating and contract by cooling. Again, mercury is a regular expanding material that can expand by heating and contract by cooling. Okay? Another reason, or the last reason, it doesn't stick to the glass tube or doesn't stick to the walls of the capillary tube inside the glass tube of the thermometer. If we use the water instead of mercury, what happens when the temperature gets high? The water expands. But what happens when the temperature gets low? The water contracts. But when water expands and contracts, some of the droplets of water can stick to the glass tube. يعني مش كل الوتر هيحصل لها expand ومش كلها هيحصل لها contract، لكن في نقط منها droplets هيحصل لها stick to the glass tube. So the measurement of temperature by using water inside the thermometer is will not be accurate، هتكون مش دقيقة. So why we use mercury in making thermometer? Mercury is the best metal or is the best liquid which is used in measuring temperature, because we have for reason مش سبب واحد بس، في 4 أسباب why do we use mercury in making thermometer or manufacturing of thermometer. Okay, again we use mercury in manufacturing of thermometer because of 4 reasons. The last reason, as I said, it doesn't stick to the glass tube. It doesn't stick to the glass tube or the walls of the glass tube. And also the first reason, because it's a good conductor of heat. Second reason, because it's a liquid metal that can be seen easily from the glass tube. Liquid metal that can be seen easily from that glass tube. Second reason, it's a good conductor of heat. Third reason, it's a regular expanding material. And the fourth reason, السبب الرابع والأخير, it doesn't stick to the walls of the capillary tube. So we have 4 reasons of why we choose the mercury for making the thermometer. We use mercury, not any liquid except alcohol in some cases. يعني في بعض لمعلوماتنا كده في بعض the thermometer contains alcohol, not mercury inside them. Okay, but also we use alcohol for what? We use alcohol for sterilizing the thermometer. Again, the thermometer contains inside it a liquid which is called mercury. Mercury is the best metal. هو أحسن معدن أو أحسن فلز أو أحسن liquid، أحسن سائل that is used in making the thermometer. Okay, so again at last we have finished our lesson today. You have finished all the points of medical thermometer and the Celsius thermometer, and now we can make a summarize. We can make a comparison. ممكن نعمل مقارنة بين Celsius thermometer and medical thermometer. Okay, I think the first point of comparison between them is the structure، التركيب الخاص بكل واحد منهم. But here I have 2 columns joined to each other, 2 columns merged. هنا في غلطة ولا ايه في الكومباريزون ديت؟ لا هي مش غلطة ولا حاجة، لأن هو التركيب similar to each one of them, so I can make them the same structure. The structure of the Celsius thermometer and the medical thermometer is the same in 3 points, so I can write the 3 points here. All of them or both of them contains transparent thick glass tube, capillary tube closed from one of its ends, and at last mercury pulp. So can you remind me which one is different from each one of them? So surely the difference or the main difference or the only difference between the medical thermometer and the Celsius thermometer in the structure is that the constriction. الفرق الوحيد بينهم هو الاختناق. So again, the medical thermometer contains constriction, but the Celsius thermometer doesn't contain the constriction. So again, up till now we have studied all things about the medical thermometer and the Celsius thermometer, and now we have summarized the structure of each one of them, and also we have studied the definition of each one of them or the range of them. The Celsius thermometer started from 0 to 100, but medical thermometer started from 35 to 42 Celsius. Okay, again, the Celsius thermometer started from what to what? From 0 to 100. The medical started from 35 to 42 Celsius. Okay, the constriction, it's a very important note between the Celsius thermometer and the medical thermometer. The constriction is absent، مش موجود in the Celsius one, but it's present لكن هو موجود in the medical one. Okay. Okay, the used liquid، السائل المستخدم in both of them is mercury. Mercury is used inside the medical thermometer and also inside the Celsius thermometer. Okay. At last, I make a definition for each one of them. I can make my own definition. As I said before, medical thermometer is the thermometer that is used for measuring temperature of the human body or human being. And what about the Celsius one? Celsius thermometer is the thermometer that is used for measuring the temperature of the liquids and atmosphere. So up to now, I'm afraid our time is up. وقتنا خلص النهارده. And I promise you, next episode inshallah, we will study and we'll have a very good revision for Unit 2, which have ended today, that contains 2 lessons about measuring temperature and heat conduction, and also have a revision about Unit 1, which deal with mass and weight. And now, thank you and goodbye.